we're getting to continue this Advent journey together on our walk to Christmas, and we continue this sermon series as we're talking about the topics of the greatest gift we receive. We all know the meaning of Christmas, the birth of Santa. No, right? We're celebrating Jesus, God with us. We celebrate this moment where God shows up in this greatest gift to not rule from on high, but to walk alongside us. And this gift that we get to light today is another gift. Last week we talked about hope, how that creates in us a spirit of endurance, that we persist in this love and life because we know that that's God's hope for the world. Today we light a candle of peace. Today we talk about the peace we receive and God offering himself to us to walk with us. So this week, as we light that candle of peace, I am really excited to tell you, the other night, Friday night, we talked about peace and baptism and this new creation that God is bringing in Jesus. And we had our Tweens Advent overnight retreat. And you guys are like, whoa. Yes, Tweens can vouch. It's a big deal, you guys. And not only do we get to talk about these gifts of life, not only do we get to talk about baptism and John the Baptist, we get to play some games. And guys, I get to sleep at the church. Jealous much? Yeah, I got to sleep in the fellowship hall. I know, you're like, oh, I wish I could. Well, you can. Just talk to me about volunteering. I know what you're thinking. How do I get to sleep in the fellowship hall? Okay, so we did that. It was great. But not only that, then we had last night our confirmation Christmas party. They got to celebrate, and this is my advice to all of you. Before you depart or go to adult ed, there's a little table out there. Our confirmation students need your votes. We've got some tickets there. They made their nativity scenes out of snacks. They had an hour in their teams to make nativity scenes out of pretzels, marshmallows, all that stuff. So let me just say, very creative. A little conceptual sometimes, but check it out. Please, we covet your vote. The winner will get something. I don't know what yet. Mysteries of Advent. So we continue with this, and I'm going to be perfectly honest. Maybe it's because I've spent a lot of time with children who are sometimes loud, sometimes not so sleepy when they should be. I love peace. I know it doesn't look like I'd be the type who'd like quiet, but there are some times where peace and quiet, ooh, nice. I have a little deck out back of my house, and I love sitting on that thing sometimes when it's really busy and hectic to just take a minute, zen out. Back of our house has these trees, so it's kind of like sitting in a tree house. So I'm sitting there, and I can hear the wind and breeze. Not right now, obviously. Very cold. But when it's lovely, when that season's happening, I love the peace that I can receive from that. Peace and quiet. However, I want to say, I don't think we're lighting a candle of peace and quiet today. We're lighting a candle that's talking about this different kind of peace. I just talked to the little ones about it. A feeling of peacefulness is one thing, sitting on a beach, chilling out, sleep. Keep awake. I'm using Jesus language. Keep awake. But peace in that sense is not really what Jesus is talking about. I think we can sometimes conflate the words peace and quiet. They can be the same thing to us. Today's reading, I think, captures the duality of those two realities of quiet and true peace. In our first section, what did we have in our gospel lesson? We had the reign of Tiberius, right? Then after that, it was reign of Tiberius, and who was his governor in Judea? Does anyone remember? He's popular in the 3-day story of Jesus, Pontius Pilate, right? And there was the king in the region, King Herod. We heard about him. And then it goes into Herod's brother Philip, and then it goes into who the high priests are. It gives a lot of information of who these people are. And historically, that's what it's doing. It's placing this story in history, that these were real events. But when I hear all those names, all I hear is documentation. This is just who's in charge. Who's the peacekeeper in this region? Who's in charge of maintaining the peace? If they can't, who's above them? If we have a dispute, who do I go to above them? And I think there is something to be said about this story. You guys have heard the term Pax Romana. Have you heard that? Pax Romana was this expression of this time of great peace in the world when Rome was ruling the world, when Rome was at its zenith. Pax Romana, all peace came from Rome. Hard fought, hard earned order. But is that peace, really? That's quiet for sure. They were going for quiet. Authority figures, that sort of idea that if you do something wrong, there will be repercussions, and those repercussions will be dealt out by the proper authorities. That's order. That can provide some quiet. But it's not really peace in the sense that we're talking about. Think about that time where those people in Judea would have known, you don't poke Rome. Because if you poke Rome, they will inflict peace measures. Peacekeeping measures. If you decided to disrupt worship rituals, like let's just say you went to the temple and started flipping tables, made a cord of whips, and started casting people out, saying this place is full of a den of robbers. Rome might go, that isn't okay. You're disrupting the peace. What if you decided to teach a bunch of rabble-rousers and outsiders that their plight was very legitimate? In fact, in time they would be delivered. A second kingdom would come that would flip the world upside down. And those at the bottom would be at the top. The last will be first. The first will be last. Those who are hungry will be fed. What if that inspired people to start following you, wishing that that person was king? What if they started saying, that's the real king? Do you think Rome would say, that's good? No. Peace is quiet. And I don't need these rabble-rousers getting all fired up about some new reality when the current reality is well-ordered, well-oiled, exactly as it should be. What if you called into question the folks who were in charge? The local religious leaders? What if someone was saying, if you look closely at these religious leaders, you'll see, just like anybody, a less than faithful bunch of people. Don't follow their ways. Follow the way of God. Hint, I'm talking about Jesus, right? You all know these are Jesus things. These are things Jesus did, which begs the question, why on earth do we call Jesus the Prince of Peace? He's really a prince of chaos, right? If you're really into empire, if you're into what Rome is doing. Jesus saw a different kind of peace that was beyond just the quiet offered by Pax Romana. He saw something different that didn't have people being executed on crosses. He saw a reality where people weren't stoned for their mistakes and transgressions. He saw a reality where hypocrisy was no more. We could be consistent. Jesus saw a peace that wasn't just about quiet. I think when I think about the peace I want, oftentimes that's the peace I want. I just want quiet. I want to sit in my deck. I want to not be disturbed. I want to not deal maybe with something for a time. You probably know this. There are things that weigh on us that we're just like, if I could just avoid that for a minute. But the peace I receive on the deck is not a peace I receive from Jesus. It's like this quiet order is what I'm looking for. True peace time on my deck where I hear the birds chirping. Doesn't change the fact that my brothers and sisters suffer in Haiti from food scarcity, from starvation, from sickness, from gangs and violence. Sitting on my deck doesn't change the fact that maybe a few houses away, someone's living in fear of domestic violence. That someone is just treated as something less than human. Me sitting on the deck, although I feel rest and peacefulness, doesn't change that. The only thing that changes that is this new reality that Jesus is working for, that he's entrusted us to carry out. How are we going to be those people of peace? I'm challenged because I just want sometimes that deck time. I'm not saying, though, I want to make it clear that we don't need rest. We do. God knows we need quiet times to remind ourselves, to restore ourselves. You guys know the creation story. One of the first things God does is he finally makes people, and what's the first thing he does? Let's rest for a minute. Before we get started, let's rest. We work from rest. Rest is important. But peace, that comes from Christ. What is that peace? How do we experience true peace together? The peace that we often reference, have you guys heard that? You've heard the shalom, right? Shalom is the Hebrew word for peace. It's a whole peace. If you ever need to see a glimpse of whole, consistent peace, look at the table. There are no deals here. There's no negotiations. There is no awkwardness of should I or shouldn't I. There's no am I welcome or not. This is for you. This is for us. God offered himself for us, offering true peace. If you need a glimpse of the peace offered by God, you just saw our reading, right? You just read our reading with me. What is that reality that John the Baptist is talking about, what Isaiah has been talking about? It's a reality where all the valleys, every valley it says, will be filled. No more pits of despair for anybody. No more pits of sadness. No more pits that separate us from one another. It's been filled. How about mountains that can sometimes divide us? Challenges we face in our lives. Are there some mountains that are going to be left? No. It says literally every mountain will be made low. So is somebody really going to have to hustle and hurdle and just do their best? No. God is doing God's best. And then finally, the big one, I love this one. What flesh is going to see God? All flesh will witness our God of love and mercy. Shalom, whole peace, not a piece of peace, not peace for these people or that people. If you do this or do that, all are welcome. All receive God's mercy. All receive this gift of life. There's no if I'm good enough. It's been changed. There's a gift of that kind of peace. A peace that doesn't always mean quiet. I will ask, have any of you ever experienced peace in not so quiet surroundings? It's possible. Yeah, it's been done. I'll give you an example. Saturday night, Friday night, our kids at Good Shepherd, I can safely say it was not particularly quiet. I know I'm loud, but it's really loud sometimes. But I got a taste of this peace, of a peace that God came down to be with that noise, to be with that racket, to be with that dirty, sometimes obnoxious time that we live in when we're fourth graders or sixth graders or 99-year-olds. Sometimes we are a challenge. I ask you, would you prefer in worship that we didn't have a bunch of little kids in worship? No. That comes sometimes with some sounds, with some crying, with some restlessness. But would we have it any other way? No. Because that's true peace, is knowing that a disciple from 1 to 100 is welcome in this place. They're a part of this story. The gifts of God are for them, all of us. What peace can we take from such a promise? What peace can we take from knowing that God is with all of us, that even a tomb can't separate him from us. What peace can you take? What peace do you take from knowing that Christ is with you, but also with the person you struggle the most with? Christ came for them too. There's a little saying sometimes I've heard in the South. The people that are really challenging in your life, they're a beloved child for whom Christ died. I mean that with sincerity. I don't mean it to be rude. I challenge us to think about that kind of peace, that there is no quid pro quo, that God is literally for everyone. What peace do you take from knowing that the pain you can't see even in others, the pain of people around the world, is meant to be swallowed up in the abiding love of Jesus Christ? Brothers and sisters, we have the capacity with that peace, the peace that we receive in Jesus Christ, to be mighty. We have the capacity to be bold, to practice grace and love in daring situations where, yes, being mad or angry or mean to somebody would totally be justifiable. But no, we have a peace beyond understanding that all people are welcome to this table. So brothers and sisters, come to the table, experience this peace, practice this peace in the world, because God has given it to each and every one of us. And the gifts of God are free. Amen.